Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of July 8th to July 14th. Quick little disclaimer. If, big if, you hear any loud rattles of thunder in the background, I'm not playing with some kind of sound effect or anything. It is storming here in Oklahoma, which I'm okay with because that means I don't have to water the garden later. So that's good stuff for me. But we have storms rolling through Oklahoma. So if you by chance hear any loud background noise or you see any like dimming of the lights or something like that, it is because it is storming here. So I can't really help that. Anyways, beyond that, how did the weekend go? Did you deal with the exposure element? Did you deal with the emotional element? Or did you deal with the relief? And this seemed to be the theme for most people. Now, if it was emotional, for some people, emotional was something new, coming to light, getting revealed, a surprise, new connections being made, new interactions starting to happen. We had something new. For other people, the emotional was based off of what had been exposed, but it wasn't our exposure. We didn't get exposed, but it was someone in our surroundings, someone that we love, someone that we care about. They were exposed. A truth came out about them. A change happened around them. Something was brought to light. Something was revealed. Decisions were made. Something happened. And we're still in the midst of dealing with the effect of whatever has happened. But in addition to that, we also had those levels of exposure. There were things that were brought to light. And they specifically happened somewhere between June 11th during that Mars-Pluto square and last week's Mercury trine to Neptune. We learned things, we heard things, and we saw the turn in certain situations and certain people. Those turns were necessary. The separations that we have started to go through recently have been necessary. We cut out the weight of something that is holding us back. We make space for what new things are going to come through because there is a newness that is starting to shift into focus. This new moon in Cancer brought some of those shifts. It brought some of that awareness as to where we're going next. For some people, there was relief. There was relief in that new moon. You did expose that person. You did bring those things to light. You did see how something would play out. You did give benefit of the doubt. And you saw the writing on the wall just as it was going up. And you're like, yeah, I kind of figured that's how this was going to go. I kind of figured you weren't going to do the right thing. And you could be emotional in your response to that, but you can also feel a lot of relief about, okay, whatever I do next is exactly what you deserve. Whatever I do next is exactly what I deserve. I don't have this responsibility anymore. I don't have this pressure anymore. I don't have this thing weighing me down. I can move forward and progress the way I desire, the way I wish to. There's a lot of things that came up in the new moon in Cancer. And for a lot of people, the emotions that kept coming to the surface, some of them were based off of the recent events that had been uncovered over the course of the last few weeks. We've had those recent things piling up and bubbling up. And finally, we get to this new moon and we can just emotionally purge and just let all the tears come out or let all the funk come out and do whatever we need to do to work it out, shake it out, get it off. But we also know for us to work it out, get it out, and get that all off our plate, a strategy needed to be at play. During the new moon in Cancer, Saturn, newly retrograde, made a sextile to Mars. Mars has been heavily disruptive And he has been disrupting things that have been put in place for a long time while simultaneously cementing the newer things that we built and worked throughout April, May, and June. Let's solidify this. Let's hammer in those final nails. Let's make sure all those screws are there. Let's make sure all the brackets are all there that we need to support this structure. Let's make sure this foundation is strong, while simultaneously looking at this other thing going, and you can go, and this can be gone, and this can go away, and this doesn't need to happen anymore. Mars has been doing a lot through Taurus, shaking up a lot of things and initiating a bit of a boiling energy that's been starting to build. The 1st of June, it was more of a simmer. As the month progressed, that water heated up. We've had more things starting to come to light. And now we're kind of at like a rolling boil. We're not boiling over quite yet, but as we get into next week, that week, that crazy week that I've already warned about in the month ahead forecast, we're going to go from this rolling boil that we're in to bubbling over next week. So there's a consistent flow of energy still, of things that need to happen, of progression that needs to be made, of reactions that need to occur, of certain things that need to be brought to light, get addressed, and handled. Now, for some people, that sounds crazy. Like, what are you talking about? I get it. I get when you get confused like that. That might mean that you are dealing with that ripple effect of the energy. That it's not happening to you directly, but it's happening in the vicinity around you. And you're just watching everything unfold, even though in that moment you're not comprehending exactly what's unfolding. Just take note of which days have a little bit more intensity than others, because as this week progresses, the intensity will start to build, especially once we get to the later half of the week, because it's leading into the shit show week between July 15th and July 21st. It's a shit show. It's a different shit show than what we dealt with before. But for right now, I'm just going to call it a shit show. It's a lot. But it is the decisions and actions and reactions, the revealing, the accounting, the documentation, the supported energy of this week that leads to next week. This cited energy of change, it leads to next week. So there is something that is going to start to build up throughout the week as we come out of our corners. Going back to the new moon in Cancer, the taking of our corner analogy, the boxing analogy that I used. We needed a break. Energetically, we needed to simmer down. We needed to feel calm. We needed to feel peaceful. We needed to feel those emotions. We needed to cry it out. We needed to do whatever we needed to do to get through the emotions of the weekend. But those emotions, those things that kept coming to the surface, the stirring of that pot, so to speak, is going to lead to certain things that are going to occur this week. Now, this week in general, it's not a big week, but it does feel like a pivotal week. Once we make certain decisions, once we file certain things, once we take certain actions, once we do one or two things, the after effect from there is huge. But we have to make those decisions, and a big portion of us are going to be making some very key decisions to parts of this week. So let's get into the week. Let's get into Monday. Monday. I am starting this off right after midnight. However, there's not a whole lot going on. What we do have going on is kind of a buildup of certain energies that we're going through late on Sunday, but are more going to perfect on Monday morning. So we got two things that are perfecting Monday morning. The first one happens between 5:51 and 6:10 a.m. So I got this at 5:30 because that's close enough. First things first, we have Uranus going through its sextile to Venus. The Venus is hosting Uranus. Venus is in her exaltation. Something unexpected that can be empowering, that can be helpful, that can be uplifting, something that is helpful. I kind of warned about this in last week's episode, that when we get to parts of late Sunday, we can be doing something that's extremely helpful in the strategy, in our planning, in our work that we are dealing with. Uranus's sextile to Venus can be something that is very hopeful, very helpful, very healing because of Venus's placement. There is some expect the unexpected energy, and this can play out any time on Monday. It's just the most exact in this early morning part. Adding a layer to that. We have one more thing going on in the morning. It has nothing to do with lunar transits, and that is between 9:23 and 9:38. So I've got this at 9:30 now. Jupiter is going to sextile Mercury. Uranus sextile Venus, but Uranus is being hosted by Venus. Jupiter sextile Mercury, but Jupiter is being hosted by Mercury. Unexpected support, unexpected knowledge, unexpected things that are very hopeful, helpful, and healing, lessons, information, an expansion of information, an expansion of knowledge, this unexpected breakthrough of energy that can help you learn and understand something even greater. It's a very interesting energy that I think is beautiful in how it kicks off the week. It's all coming down to what we are going into next week with the idea that we're going to be planning on. If you're going into this next week with the idea that I just got engaged and now I have to plan a wedding, that's one thing. But if you're going into this next week going, I need to find a lawyer, that's another thing. But there's something engaging. And it has this voluminous energy. And if you're using it well, if you're using it appropriately, it can be very, very helpful. Okay. Moving along, we're going to get to the afternoon. We only have one lunar transit to Monday. So Monday's not really heavy. This one can be kind of heavy depending on the situation. And that's whenever Mars at 21 degrees is going to hit a square, so 90-degree angle, to the moon. Stubborn, argumentative, frustrated, not wanting to move, not wanting to do something, not wanting to change something, not wanting to put up with something. That's a big possibility. You can also have had something from the earlier parts of the day with Uranus's sextile to Venus and Jupiter sextile to Mercury, that something that played out earlier in the day gets found out by somebody else by the afternoon, and their response is frustration. Their response is argumentative and wanting to fight and tension and things along these lines. Do I feel like Mars is square to the moon for everybody is going to be fighting or arguing? No. However, there hasn't been a whole lot of aspects to Mars while Mars has been going through Taurus. A lot more of the recent aspects have been more tied to Saturn and Neptune. So this one right here could be something completely off the wall, and it has some type of tension or argument or frustration, but it can also be direction, excitement, pushing someone forward, motivating somebody in some way, going more positive whenever it comes to Mars is square to the moon. If it's the argumentative, though, it's somebody showing their ass, somebody showing their ego, that type of thing. That's what I get a feeling of. Okay, moving along. After the Mars moon square, there's not a whole lot going on. And we're going to get into Tuesday, and still, there's not a whole lot going on. So, right after midnight on July 9th, there we go, between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. Central Standard Time. So, I got this at 12:30. Uranus is going to square the moon. And this is the last square that's going to happen with the Leo sign for right now. Then the moon's going to go into Virgo. Now, here's the deal. This is happening right at midnight. So for some people, the human effect is this is still a part of Monday. For other people, it's going to set the mood for Tuesday. And Tuesday's got a lot of build up and angst that's going to be in the energy, awareness of certain things, reviewing certain things, talking through certain things, revitalizing, rescheduling. We're doing certain things, but a lot of it has to do with tangible things. Before we get into that main part of the day, we've got this midnight transit. Uranus's square to the moon can be the unexpected push, unexpected breakaway or breakthrough, unexpected energy that leaves us feeling confused. Now, I wouldn't normally say confused, but given the rest of the transits at hand, we could end this moment, have a bit of confusion, but we could also have this energy of like, enough's enough. I don't need to talk about this anymore. We don't need to talk about this anymore. We don't need to argue about this anymore. Again, this transit is the most exact right after midnight on Tuesday, but the human effect is this can happen late Monday night, or this can be a big part of like what sets the energy going into Tuesday. But after Uranus is square to the moon goes void for a couple of hours. We're going to get to the morning time. At 8:48 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to go into Virgo, and it's not going to do crap. Nothing. Not all day long. We go from the moon being void all through the overnight. So that's going to be good for some people. If you want to be able to sleep, you're going to actually be able to do that. For other people, you're going to be just like lost in the sauce of like confusion or having something that was just blindsiding and unexpected. But then the next morning, it's like, okay, I got to get to the bottom of this. The moon's entry into Virgo needs to understand the recent news, the recent decision, the recent documentation that has been brought to light. Why do I say that? Because remember, Mercury has still in that sextile to Jupiter. They're separating, but it's still there. We just had a mercurial transit. And now we're going to go through the next few days of the moon being in Mercury's sign. Now, all day long, we do have two other energies that are building, but they won't even go exact until Thursday. And that is Saturn in its trine to the sun and Venus in the trine from Neptune. Both of these are building. Both of these, again, will go exact on Thursday. But it's like whatever starts to happen, whatever comes to light, whatever, again, is a part of the exposure, whatever is being voiced, whatever is being showcased, whatever has been revealed, whatever we're bragging about, whatever we're excited about, whatever we're mad about, depending on the situation. We need to do the paperwork. We need to review the documents. We need to review the hard evidence. We need to be having certain conversations. That's the moon in Virgo for 2.5 days. After the moon directly goes into Virgo, again, Tuesday, there's no other direct transit. Moon's just doing its thing. It's just going. It's just moving. And then we're going to get into the 10th. A lot of people are going to be very, very busy or very, very critical on Tuesday. They're going to be nitpicking certain things. They need to really focus their mind on certain things, because if you don't have a good place to put your mental focus, then you're not going to do well in this energy. Plain and simple. Moving along. All right, we're getting into Wednesday now. The moon in Virgo is going to hit a square from Jupiter between 4 and 6 a.m. So I got this at 4:30. Here's Jupiter, 10 degrees, 12 minutes. Here's the moon, 9 degrees, 54 minutes. So it hasn't gone exact quite yet right here. But I'm looking at the fact that we started this week with Jupiter sextile to Mercury. And that's a big portion of Monday. Whatever we learned, whatever knowledge we've expanded upon, whatever we have filed, whatever we are dealing with, it's like as soon as it's handed over, it has to go through deeper critical analysis, criticism. There's more notation, there's more documentation, there's more questioning, there's processing in the filing. There's something here that I do feel like kind of got initiated in Monday's energy. It's just that initial energy wasn't big in the moment, but it's going to lead to something big. Okay. Jupiter's squaring of the moon right here. Again, this is happening between 4 and 6 a.m. We're not all going to be dealing with this at 4 and 6 o'clock in the morning. Adjust for your time zones like always, but more in focus. Like this can be a big portion of the energy because we can go into Wednesday morning, wrong day, with questioning the paperwork, questioning certain things, getting more knowledge, but from a critical standpoint. There's an analysis here. There can be additional levels of education, additional levels of knowledge, but whatever it is, we're critiquing it in so many ways. Okay. Now, the sun's trine to Saturn is building all day. This is actually, I said this wrong a minute ago. I said this is happening on Thursday. This goes exact on Wednesday, but it's filling all of Thursday. So I got to be clear about that. So I apologize. But there's something about late Wednesday that like really sets the stage for Thursday. And I want to be absolutely clear about that. So I'm getting this till real late in the evening time. We got a couple things going on. Saturn's exact trine to the sun is going to go exact between 9:58 and 10:22 p.m. So at 11:30, I'm just past it. There's a reason why I'm at 11:30. So here's Saturn, 19 degrees, 19 minutes. Here's the sun, 19 degrees, 22 minutes. Trines are triangles. But in this case, water is not flowing the same way. Retrograde Saturn, direct sun. Whatever is going on, whatever is being understood is leading to separation. It is a part of a separation. It is a part of things going in two different directions. In this regard, we also have the moon making an opposition to Saturn and going through a sextile with the sun. This goes the most exact between basically 9:30 on the 10th and 12:30 on the 11th. So we're ending Wednesday in some very deep conversations. We're having very responsible conversations. We are talking about something that has happened in the past. We are talking about some past decisions, old roles, old responsibilities, old ways of doing things, because whatever we used to do is giving enlightenment to someone else. There can be other things that have recently occurred over the last few weeks between all of those squares to Saturn and those trines to Saturn and Saturn's retrograde and the first full moon in Capricorn that can also be feeding into this energy that is making it like more well known and cemented as to what has occurred. They didn't do this right thing. They didn't take responsibility. They didn't want to do this role anymore. They didn't want something. So now this is how we're progressing with the sun moving forward, two different directions. But there's a lot of conversation and voicing right here that has to do with the different directions, the different paths, the different ways that we're going. And there's a lot of knowledge that's meant to come through, a lot of questioning and a lot of awareness. Some people will be becoming aware of a whole other situation they had no knowledge about. They had no part of, but all of a sudden they're learning a lot of things in that late part of Wednesday and or that early part of Thursday. So now we're going to get into Thursday, and Thursday is a busy day, astrologically speaking, just to be clear. Okay, so again, the moon's opposition to Saturn, the sun sextile to the moon, we feel that until 12:30 in the morning. I explained that more for Wednesday evening, but we will be feeling it as a part of Thursday. We get into the morning time, bump this a few more hours. We're going to get this to 9:30. And we got two things that are going on simultaneously. Between 7:30 I'm sorry, between 7 a.m. and 9:30 a.m., Mars is going to trine the moon. Earth to earth, support. Mars is in that fixed earth sign. It's in the sign of Taurus. It's in Venus's sign. And Venus is going through that exact trine with Neptune. We have very critical understanding of something. We are understanding a disruption to something that has been a certain way for a long time. But in some way, shape, or form, we don't have the same level of respect. We don't have the same level of trust. We do not see eye to eye anymore. Venus is trine with Neptune while this is going on is really interesting because, again, Venus is hosting Mars. Now, for some people, those trines with Neptune has been like we've uncovered truths. We've uncovered certain lies. We have been able to put certain things straight, and there has been things tied to fraud and deception. These things that we were not privy to that we're suddenly becoming more privy to. That's one element of this. Another way that this can be is like, I can support you, Mars trine the moon, with what you're doing because I didn't believe that anyways. Venus trine Neptune, but Neptune's retrograde, going in two different directions. I don't support them the same way. I don't see this the same way. I'm not a part of this the same way. I see you're trying to do something different. I see you're trying to make a change. I see you're trying to bring something to light. I see you're trying to expose this. Let me help you. There's something more support, more knowledge, more understanding that's meant to come through. We're still in the early parts of the 11th. Now, with Venus's trine to Neptune, this can also have to do with the treatments that we're no longer doing or the medicines that we're no longer doing. Some kind of change in regards to that energy, because sometimes Neptune can have to do with treatments and medicine. And if that's the case, then it's like we're looking for another opportunity, another way to treat something. We're looking for an alternative because the old way of treating something, the old situation is not going to continue to work. It's not helping anymore. We've outgrown the medicine. It's not affecting us the same way anymore. And there can be something that has to do with that, just to be clear. Okay. At 11:19 a.m. Central Standard Time, Venus is going to enter Leo. So I put this at 11:30. Boom. Venus is now in Leo. And once Venus enters Leo, she also automatically enters her opposition to Pluto. This is going to be something that will not go exact on Thursday. It's going to go exact on Friday, but it's a big part of the energy. It's a big part of the buildup. So I'm making people aware because whenever I start to describe this on Friday, because that's when it's going to go exact, it could actually be a big part of Thursday too. Thursday and Friday's energy very much feeds into one another. Okay, moving along. Between 12:30 and 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Uranus is also going to trine the moon. Unexpected support, unexpected information, unexpected dialogue, unexpected changes, unexpected news coming through. But this is helpful news because it is earth to earth, tangible to tangible, solid energy, solid news, solid evidence, something solid coming through, which is really helpful. Oh, between 7:30 and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm going to keep bumping this by a few hours. We're going to get to 8:30 right here. Here's the moon in Virgo hitting the opposition to Neptune. I know you lied to me. I know you lied to them. I know this isn't true. I know this isn't real. I know you're not telling me the truth. I know something's not there. That's the moon's opposition to Neptune. For other people, it's, again, expressing the treatments don't work anymore. This medicine's not working anymore. I need to find something else. I need to do something else. And there can be something in this late night evening that tells you the different way to treat something, the different way to take care of something. For other people, This is going to be the need for something that distracts our senses. We're going into the evening time going, to hell with this day. I need to just binge watch something on TV. Let's put on something old. Let's put on the Golden Girls. Let the nostalgia take over. I need something that makes me feel better so that way I can deal with this shit with fresh eyes tomorrow, with a fresh mindset tomorrow. There is something here that speaks to the tomorrow energy. And it's not just because of the moon's opposition to Neptune. It actually has to do with the fact that once the moon goes into Libra, that happens at 9:07 p.m. I've got this at 8:30. I bumped this 1 hour. Boom, the moon is in Libra. There we go. Method to the madness. As soon as the moon goes into Libra, the moon also starts a sextile from Venus. And this is really interesting. So I've saved this part until we got into this later part of the day. Venus in Leo is going to be a mix of two different energies simultaneously, but we're going to get kind of like a hyperized view of it while the moon is going through Libra. And that is, we're becoming very, very aware of something that we need to get ourselves rid of, what has been keeping us out of balance, what has been distracting our focus. There is something that we need to release, relieve, or purge ourselves of. Something that we need to heal. If it has to do with healing, it has to do with the body. And I'll talk a lot more about the Venus and Leo part in the closing. But be very, very aware of what Taurus and Libra both rule in your chart now that Venus is in Leo, because it starts with this opposition to Pluto. And this can take us back to some things that happened back around February, whenever Venus made that conjunction to Pluto back then. But this can also have to do with some stuff that's going to happen later in the future, specifically the first 2 weeks of December. So this is a very key time frame. June 11th, I'm sorry, not June 11th, July 11th. June 11th was its own key issue. And July 12th, just to be clear. Okay. Venus in the sextile to the moon, though, she's hosting the moon. There is this care, there is this consideration, there is talking about what needs to be in balance. There is this thing that you're talking about that is just like, it's been throwing me off. It's making me feel wonky. It's making me feel, horrible. It's making me feel bad in some ways. While Venus is in the sextile to the moon is also going through the trine with Pluto. There is something to Thursday evening when the moon goes into Libra that directly correlates to the full Venus-Pluto opposition that's happening the next morning. The moon is in Venus's sign. The moon is moving towards Pluto. Pluto is moving towards Venus. So there's a lot of acceptance and understanding, and the knowledge and the story in the verse, in the words that have been brought to light. There's some acceptance here. There's helpfulness here. Be aware of that. Moving along. Venus's sextile to the moon is going to happen between 9 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. The moon's trine to Pluto is actually going to be in part of the overnight hours, where we go from 10:30 to the next day at 12:30. So there's July 12th. Here's the moon 1 degree. Here's Pluto 1 degree. You can see they're just separating from their trine once we get to that 12:30 time frame. But again, this energy feels like it's setting the mood and setting the stage and setting the awareness of something that we're going to be dealing with more the next day. Okay. Speaking of the next day, let's get to the next morning when that actually happens. Between 9:08 and 9:26 a.m. Central Standard Time, Venus will go through her exact opposition to Pluto. So Pluto's at 1 degree, 7 minutes. Here is Venus, 1 degree, 8 minutes. I need to see something. What has changed? What has been transformed? What has been overcome? I need to see this for myself. I need to see something. We can recognize certain things whenever it comes to new energy. We can recognize this new pivotal point, this new pivotal role. We can also see something from the past coming full circle, something triggering from the past coming full circle. Again, And the closing, I'm going to have a little bit more to say about Venus and Leo and with those levels of triggers, just to be clear. So go to the closing if you want more understanding of this. For some people, Venus's opposition to Pluto, though, is going to be how we heal from the trauma, from the abuse, from the past, how we face it. And the way that we face it has to do with that level of purging and again, healing and overcoming and these things that we need to understand and recognize. Whatever we face, good, bad, or ugly, is a very pivotal shift. And considering now that the moon is in Libra, we are getting closer to the first quarter moon, the energy level of Thursday and Friday are going to be very different compared to Monday. Okay. Again, Venus's opposition to Pluto, we're going to feel that the most exact between 9:08 and 9:26 a.m. For some people, you're going to be hearing something about another person, and then you're going to go address it with them. Like, did you really do this? Did you really steal this? Did you all really break up? Did this really happen? That's a big possibility. For other people, though, you're going to be addressing something that you did not anticipate getting addressing. You're going to turn the corner and see somebody that's going to trigger something old. It's going to trigger this old wound. It's going to trigger something that needs to be understood. Okay. Moving along. Now, in the later afternoon, the moon is going to hit a conjunction to the south node. When the moon hits the conjunction to the south node, it's also going to go through a trine with Jupiter. Jupiter's been at 10 degrees all week. Therefore, Jupiter has been in a trine to the south node all week. I didn't feel the need to bring this up. I'm bringing it up now because whenever we're going through parts of this energy, there's a big portion of the energy right now that people are going to be very much supportive of what needs to be released. We are going to be supportive of the treatment at hand. We're going to have a different understanding and awareness of the body, things that we need to change, again, things that we need to release. But after this week, Jupiter is going to go into shadow. So for a lot of people, again, this week is very, very pivotal because it's setting the stage for things that are going to be going on. For some people, for months, for other people, for weeks, for some people, all the way into next year. We're setting the stage of something. Something that needs to be purged, something that needs to be released, something that needs to be let go of. Jupiter is in Mercury's sign. Jupiter's in an air sign. It's making a trine to the moon. The awareness of certain things, the knowledge of certain things, the vibration of certain people and how things are just carrying on. There are lessons. Now, the way we get those lessons can be different for everybody. Given the fact that Venus did do the opposition to Pluto, we can be talking to someone else about who we ran into earlier in the day, what we have been dealing with all week, what has just changed over the course of the last few days. And we're getting that lesson, we're getting the experience, we're getting the knowledge from somebody who has, again, dealt with something like this before, or we're getting their perspective, and their fresh perspective gives you more information. The moon will conjoin the south node between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. Jupiter's trine to the moon will be felt the most between 6 and 8 p.m. So a good portion of like the energy of Friday evening has a lot of buzzing, it has a lot of voicing, it has a lot of noise, it has a lot of like bouncing around in this type of opportunity, in this type of information. And we get something here that helps us find relief, helps us understand what we're releasing, helps us purge certain things. It gives us a whole different awareness of how something has been impacting the body, the pressure of the body, the weight of the body, the past, lessons of the past, someone from the past reaching out. But that reach out and that someone from the past, it's a hopeful energy. It's a helpful energy. Okay. After that, there's no more direct transits until we get into Saturday. And Saturday's not super heavy. I'm going to be really clear about that. So we're going to get into the morning time of the 13th. And the first thing that we get is Mercury's sextile to the moon, and that's going to happen between 6 and 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And I want to talk about two things that's going on right here. It's the one is not exact, but I'm still going to talk about it because I feel like it leads into a big portion of whatever we're dealing with on Monday. Just to be clear. And that is when Mercury is going through the sextile with the moon and we're getting some type of knowledge, these two are in the quincunx to Saturn. So they're in conjunct. They're not seeing eye to eye. Some of the conversations that are being had over the weekends, most specifically on Saturday, we're having them without somebody else's approval, without somebody else's say so, without somebody else's knowledge. We're having this conversation knowing that somebody else ain't going to like it. Now, here's the deal. Mercury in the quincunx to Saturn, this is not even close to being direct. This is not going to go direct until Monday. The moon moves much, much faster, and he's doing a lot more things. But I do feel like there's going to be some types of conversation that are being had that it's almost catty. Well, so-and-so didn't want to do it anyway. So-and-so didn't want to be here anyway. So-and-so didn't want to be responsible. So-and-so doesn't work there anymore. So-and-so does this and this and it's very catty. For a lot of people, this is going to be like a catty energy. Okay, there's your warning. For some of you, you're going to be a part of the catty energy. For some of you, you're going to be in the strategy, the strategicness of like, they're not responsible for this anymore. They're not doing this part anymore. They're not going to take care of this anymore. So we got to do it. We got to fix this and we got to take it. For some people, that's going to be a really good thing. For other people, not so much. Be aware of that. Be aware of the conversations that we are having throughout the weekend. There are layers to them. There are depths to them. Mars and Uranus are getting closer to this conjunction. It's not going to go exact until Monday. However, some of the noise, some of the conversation, some of the planning, some of the strategy can be a part of this unexpected boom that can happen for a lot of people Monday and Tuesday of the next week, just to be clear. Okay. Oh, between 5 and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm going to keep bumping this and we're going to do the evening time. Is there things that's going to be going on throughout the day? Absolutely. Are we doing everything all at once? Not really. But now we get to this first quarter moon. Here's the sun, 22 degrees, 2 minutes. Here's the moon, 22 degrees, 21 minutes. So we're just past the exact first quarter moon. But while this is going on, it's also entering a T-square to Chiron. So here's the moon. Here's the opposition to Chiron. Here's the sun entering the square from Chiron. The moon will hit the full opposition. This is not going to go exact on the 13th, but there is an energy here. For us to fix something, we're going to have to make some harder decisions. We're going to have to push for something to happen. We're going to have to push for a certain type of change. And for some people, that change can be quickly evident. For other people, it's going to be changes that we're starting to push for that are not going to go anywhere for a while. And there's reasons why I say that. Now, in the moment, we can be vibing. We can be talking about the past, how we've fixed something, how well things are going, how well things are healing. You can also be talking about it from another standpoint of like getting an understanding of how somebody got hurt, how somebody dealt with a wound, how somebody's been dealing with the emotional trauma of something. There can be a lot of awareness of that. And the thing is, like sometimes whenever you open up that gateway of somebody to talk about an old wound, you can also recognize really quick that they're still mad about something. And that's a part of the vibration, given that Mars is getting closer to Uranus. Be aware of that. Read that energy. Read those people that you're talking to. And if you can tell they can't handle that conversation, take a step back. Venus is still in the opposition to Pluto. She's separating, but it's still there. Mars is starting to build with this conjunction to Uranus. Don't play with fire. Just trust me on that. Okay. Okay. Now the moon's opposition to Chiron, that goes the most exact between 8 and 10 p.m. That's not meant to be a heavy energy, but it is still a part of the vibration. It is still a part of what's going on. So we need to be aware of those types of things. As we go through the rest of the evening and we start to get into Sunday, the 14th, we have two things that are going to happen right after midnight. And the human effect is, for some people, this is going to happen Saturday night. For other people, it's going to be a part of Sunday morning. The moon is going to do an in conjunction, a quincunx to Mars and Uranus. There is something that's about to happen that another person is not aware of. There is something that is starting to come up, starting to take shape, starting to come together that another person is not agreeing with. You're going to do what tomorrow? You're going to turn in your notice. You're just going to quit your job. You weren't even going to tell me you're going to quit your job? And you can be dumbfounded. You can want to argue. Absolutely, you can want to argue. But there's something that's starting to take shape that is like when the other person hears about it, they either want nothing to do with it, or they're not agreeing with it, or whatever is starting to bubble up and boil around another set of people. It's being met with indifference. There can be a lot of indifference to next weekend, but it goes the most exact in these overnight hours from Saturday into Sunday. Some people are just not going to be aware that these other activities are finally happening, and you're not going to be aware for a few more days, and that's going to go into next week, because yay, next week. Moving along. The moon is going to go into Scorpio at 9:53 a.m. Central Standard Time. So for some of us, we're just kind of dragging waking up the next morning. Like, we're not quick to do anything. We're not quick to go anywhere. We are doing a late brunch. It's just not the same. Now, once the moon goes into Scorpio, this is going to be interesting because, again, Scorpio has two rulers, Pluto and Mars. And what's going on with Mars? Mars is starting its conjunction with Uranus. It goes exact on the 15th. It is how we start the next week. The buildup of energy once we get into the end of the week is going to be very important. And now we're at the end of the week. Now we're at Sunday. There can be something very disruptive that starts to unfold. There can be something that is very pivotal or chaotic that is starting to unfold. Scorpio risings, what did you do? By the way, I am a Scorpio rising, so I'm throwing myself under the bus on that one. What did I do? Now, once the moon goes into Scorpio, the first thing it's going to do is enter a square with Pluto. Now, that is going to be felt the most exact between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. So here's at 11:30. Here's the moon, 0 degrees, 48 minutes, squaring Pluto. You can see that square starting to build. But Pluto is moving towards the moon. So there's something with acceptance. I heard you ran into so-and-so. Yeah, well, it went better than I expected. I heard this about you. Yeah, let me confirm that. Something has changed. Something from the past. Old wounds have been triggered. Old situations have been triggered. There's something in this energy where we're talking about the wounds, the fear, the frustration, the triggering. There is a trigger in this energy. And considering the next full moon in Capricorn is in a conjunction to Pluto, pay attention to the triggers. Pay attention to what's being triggered. Okay. Between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is then going to hit the square from Venus. Now Venus is separated far enough away from Pluto. Whatever the Venus-Pluto opposition was bringing forward, like, we've got a better awareness of this. And now we're getting some guidance from Venus. We're getting some knowledge from Venus. Venus is hosting that Mars-Uranus conjunction. This is like getting to the end of the day going, oh yeah, and this is going to happen tomorrow. We're going to fire him tomorrow. They're going to be let go tomorrow. They're arriving tomorrow. The meeting is tomorrow. The situation is tomorrow, or, human effect. It could be next week. So we could be just saying Tuesday, not just Monday, but there's some type of knowledge and expression and push of information from Venus towards the moon. Venus again is hosting this Mars-Uranus conjunction that is building all day. And there is something about the weekend that is setting the stage for whatever comes about next week. Next week, July 15th through 21st. I've already given warning about the energies of this week, of that week. However, let's talk about Venus and Leo, because I said, let's go to the ending and I'll talk more about Venus and Leo. Oh, last summer, for 4 months and 4 days, Venus was in Leo. Of that, there was a retrograde. Her entire stint was June 5th to October 9th, 4 months and 4 days. From July 22nd to September 3rd, she was retrograde. She did a lot of things last summer. When Venus goes into Leo this time, anyone that had things that were brought to light that happened last summer during the Venus retrograde, we're going to be wrapping some of those things up once Venus goes into Leo. I'm not saying that all on day one. I'm saying that over the course of the entire 3.5 weeks that she is there, because she's going to be there from July 11th until August 5th when Mercury turns retrograde. And I will again do a Mercury retrograde video later in the week. I'm not doing it today. I've still got some notes that I want to finalize. Let's be clear about that. There are transits that are going to start to occur that are going to take us back to unfinished business, unresolved situations, old habits, old wounds, old things coming back around. There's going to be some things that are coming back through. The thing about whatever starts to come back through once Venus goes into Leo is it can be all old business, but I don't feel like it will be for everybody. But I do feel like it will be something that really impacts that next eclipse season, because we have one more set of eclipses that are leaning towards the south node. Now, we had some hyperized purge last summer. And if you were seen, for a lot of people, they were seen for the wrong reasons last summer during that Venus retrograde. If you ended up in a relationship during that time, you ended up in a relationship in temporary energy, and now you might not be in that relationship the same way. And what way it starts to happen, and once Venus goes into Leo this time, is that we can finally put the nail in the coffin, letting that energy go, letting that timeline go, letting that release. If you had certain people or situations that kept bubbling up to the surface, a lot of that energy is going to come back around. Now, here's the thing about whenever it comes back around. In some ways, you might have the old situation coming back full circle. Another way can be like 2.0. Similar pattern, similar bullshit, similar energy, but with a new face. 2.0. Similar topics, similar themes, but a whole different person. And if that's the case, I want you to evaluate yourself there. How would you end up back in a similar situation with a whole different person? Ask those internalized questions. What brought you to this moment? What brought you to this situation? What brought this all full circle? Look for the connections, look for the similarities, look for the synchronicities, but know that you're not going to be able to always align everything. Sometimes it's just a matter of lessons. This is one of many, because we got another few coming. One of many transits that is going to bring back awareness of old things, that is going to help us close out situations tied to old things. This is the first of them. The next one will be Mars going into Gemini. The one after that is going to be the Mercury retrograde. And the one after that is whenever going to be Pluto coming back into Capricorn. We have a theme of old shit and old wounds and old relationships and old situations and unfinished business that's about to start coming back around. And the very first inklings of it come at the end of this week. Oh, look at that. Interesting. Are you ready? How do you feel about last summer? Did you put everything to bed? Did you just walk away from certain people? Did you block every number? Did you just change your number? Is there still a way for that person or those situations to come back around? It's a big possibility. We have a lot of energy that is going to lead to resolving many things, but not every resolution is going to be about the old people coming back around. Some people, you're going to try to do the situation. You're going to try to do something all over again, but you're doing it with the wrong person this time. And that person's not going to do what you want them to do. They're going to do it their way. And you're not going to like the results. Some of you, you're trying to do the old situation again, and you are getting with the right person. But it's going to lead to a whirlwind of shit because neither one of you are ready. Because we still got to get through some purging energy and relief and peace. And it's going to be a lot to deal with. And not everybody's going to be prepared for that. But I'm telling you now, I've been saying it for a while, we needed to enjoy May, June, this first part of July. Once we get into this middle time frame, which the end of the week that we're talking about is the middle time frame, there's still the possibility of hot girl summer. There's still going to be the possibility of being able to shine and grow and do great things. But they will not come easy. Some will have quite the toll to pay, quite the toll to take based off of that. There will be adjustments and growth that are very, very timely. And any separations that you've had recently, again, you were making space for the new that's meant to come through. And it's going to come through in waves. It's going to keep rolling. And I need you to be prepared for all of it. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Hit me up with questions, hit me up with concerns. If you are wanting to book a reading with me, all of my contact information is in the description of every single episode. Pricing is listed there too, but you can always email me directly if you're wanting something in specific, like a delineation of your birth time or something along these lines, something that I don't have listed. I will be happy to talk with you one-on-one to find out what's going to be best for you and give you pricing based off of that. So I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll talk to you very, very soon. Subscribe.